Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Thanks for joining us here for the news on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Binkley. A Savannah-Chatham County public school teacher is accused of grooming a minor and is now facing more serious charges after his initial arrest. Jawan Johnson was originally charged with grooming a minor by the Chatham County Police Department, but has now been indicted for exploitation of children and solicitation of sodomy of a child under 18. According to the school system, Johnson taught 7th grade social studies at New Hampstead K-8 at the time of his arrest. The indictment says Johnson possessed material that depicted a minor engaged in sexually explicit content, solicited that minor for an act of sodomy for money, and used electronic communications to do so. It is unclear whether the minor involved was Johnson's student. Johnson is still in jail after having his bond denied. The school system says he is still technically employed, but is not getting paid. Johnson is due back in court in February. Staying on the crime watch, Savannah police say a man was cut yesterday evening during a fight between two homeless men downtown. It happened near Abercorn and East Congress Streets around 5 p.m. yesterday. Very busy area. Police say the victim's injuries are not life-threatening, and they are still searching for a suspect. Turning now to a WTOC update out of Effingham County. An Effingham County judge will decide whether to move the high-profile Crocker murder case to a different venue. Elwin Crocker Sr. is charged with the murder of his two teenage children, Mary and Elwin Jr., back in 2018. Lawyers for Crocker were in court this week. Now, the decision to change the venue for this case will be scheduled for a date before the trial, after the court granted their motion for an evidentiary hearing. Kim Wright, the child's step-grandmother, and Roy Prater, her boyfriend, have their depositions set for February 2nd. Both have already pleaded guilty to their roles in those murders. Well, this morning was a big one for Georgia Governor Brian Kemp as he gave his final State of the State address. Governor Kemp is highlighting his accomplishments since taking office in 2019. He says he's always put a strong focus on the economy and jobs for people he calls hardworking Georgians. Here's part of what the governor said during his address.
As we begin a new year, there are many reasons to be optimistic about the future of our state and its people. State taxes on hardworking Georgians are low and going lower. Our rainy day fund is at a record high. Our schools are fully funded. Our infrastructure is receiving historic investments, and our state law enforcement and educators are paid more today than they were 7 years ago.
Governor Kemp vowed to invest in state roads and highways in the year ahead. He also mentioned his budget proposal, which would bring about $250 to the average filer in Georgia. I will have more details about that coming up this afternoon, this evening, during the news at 4 and 5 on WTOC. And our very own State House reporter, Abby Kasouris, who was there during the State of the State, will have plenty more recap and reactions coming up tonight during the news at 6. Staying in state news, a new bill could force Georgia HOA boards to get training before they can fine homeowners or threaten foreclosure. It's one of 4 Senate bills targeting alleged HOA abuses to stop families from losing their homes. Anastasia Olmos with our sister station in Atlanta has more from her investigation.
Georgia Senator Rashawn Kemp's bill would require HOA boards to get training on how to properly run their community association, such as the notices they should give for violations and how much those fines should be, and so on. Our investigations found that homeowners are facing thousands of dollars in fines, some threatened with liens and foreclosure for minor violations. Senate Bill 393 amends the Georgia Property Owners Association Act, also known as the POA Act, to require the training. The Secretary of State's office would run the training, and Senator Kemp wants to use state surplus funds to pay for it.
Training to be standard across the state to ensure that people that sign up for these roles at least go in with a base level of understanding of what it takes and the parameters in which they are to serve, and hopefully to alleviate some of these problems that we're seeing right now.
That Georgia's POA Act is optional. The laws only apply to HOAs that opt into the act, either at the time that the HOA is created or by a community vote. We found that even if an HOA is part of this act, there was still no office that oversees that they follow the rules. The bill is now assigned to the Senate Public Safety Committee and changes are possible. We are waiting for more action on the other HOA bills that would apply to all HOAs. 3 of them introduced last session and still in committees. I'm Anastasia Olmos. Atlanta News First investigates.
Well, staying at the State House, if it feels like you're paying more at the grocery store, you're certainly not alone. There is a new bill that could also impact what you can and cannot buy with SNAP benefits. Now, this week's Consumer Price Index report found inflation only rose about 0.3% last month. However, the bad news is that the categories that impact your wallet the most, like food, housing, and energy, have all gone up. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently found that the average family of 4 spends close to $1,000 on groceries from back in November. That is a few $100s more per month than we spent during the pandemic. The price of beef is also up almost 16.5% over the last year. Coffee up 20%, lettuce 7%, and frozen fish is up about 8.5%.
A lot of people are feeling a lot more pressure shopping for their families. Couponing can absolutely make a difference, and how much exactly you're going to save is going to depend on what you need.
If you're hoping to save on your next shopping trip, a lot of stores put coupons directly on their apps. You can also sign up for loyalty programs to score weekly specials. And if you're buying in bulk, consider memberships to places like Costco or Sam's Club. And when you get to the store, make sure to stick to your grocery list. And if you rely on SNAP to make ends meet, new legislation in Georgia could change what you can and cannot buy. The bill would limit certain unhealthy foods and drinks, such as candy, sugary drinks, desserts, and energy drinks.
I'm more concerned about people eating, period. And it's not that hard to just get off your high horse and say, are kids eating? Because that's what I care about.
The bill would also require SNAP recipients to recertify their eligibility every year during their birthday month, starting in 2027. Well, this got a lot of attention yesterday evening. Verizon says its network is now back up and running after a day-long disruption yesterday. The company posted on its website that as of about 10:15 last night, the widespread outage that prevented people from making calls and sending texts has been resolved. Verizon says if you're still having a problem, you should restart your device to reconnect to the network. Verizon didn't say what caused the outage, but in a statement, it apologized to customers and says for those who were impacted, they will provide account credits, and details about that will be shared with customers. Turning now to health news, health experts say we likely haven't reached the peak of the respiratory virus season quite yet, so it's important to know which virus you have so you can make sure you treat it properly. Mandy Gaither goes over the symptoms for each one of the main viruses in today's Health Minute.
Across the U.S., respiratory illness is high. Seasonal flu remains elevated, as is RSV, with activity in many parts of the country and emergency room visits and hospitalizations increasing among children 0 to 4 years old. COVID-19 activity is currently low, but is increasing nationally.
Every year, there is a dance of respiratory viruses.
Dr. Frank Esper with Cleveland Clinic Children says all of these seasonal illnesses have similar symptoms. So when you're sick, it can be hard to know which you have. For flu, the 2 main types circulating are A and B. Flu A tends to be more severe with high fever, shakes, and chills, and more gastrointestinal issues, especially in children. He says adults usually have more of a cough. Symptoms for RSV include runny nose, congestion, decreased appetite, coughing, sneezing, fever, and wheezing.
It really causes problems if you have underlying lung disease, especially things like asthma or COPD, or are prone to have wheezing.
Symptoms for COVID-19 may include high fever, muscle aches, and stomach aches.
If it gets into your lungs, it can cause a really bad pneumonia.
If you're sick, Esper says it's important to be tested to know which virus you have because treating it early is key.
Viruses, once that ball gets rolling, it's very difficult to stop, even with an antiviral medicine.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Well, this afternoon, a case of highly contagious bird flu is now confirmed in a commercial poultry flock in Georgia. State agriculture officials say the disease was detected in Walker County. That's just about 2 hours northwest of Atlanta. The Georgia Department of Agriculture is working to prevent any further spread. Now, the affected area houses more than 71,000 birds, and they are being quarantined. In national news, a NASA crew returned to Earth overnight, weeks ahead of schedule, after one of their astronauts experienced medical complications in space. The 4 crew members aboard were recovered safely. And for NASA, it's the first time a medical incident has ever cut short a mission at the International Space Station. Mark Strassman has more on the efforts to bring the astronauts home.
You're getting your first views of re-entry.
In the pre-dawn hours off the California coast, the returning capsule streaked toward a splashdown. All in all, a routine end to an unprecedented mission cut short.
SpaceX Dragon, it's so good to be home.
And then from that capsule, looking like a charred marshmallow, the crew of 4 was removed one by one onto the deck of a SpaceX recovery ship. One of them is dealing with an unknown but concerning medical issue.
It was a serious situation. The astronaut in question is fine right now, good spirits.
Undocking confirmed.
Last evening at 5:20 Eastern Time, the crew undocked from the ISS for its nearly 11-hour trip back to Earth. Their mission cut short last week when the ISS crew surprised everyone by calling for help.
Do you have like a crew surgeon?
Yes, we'll get that in work.
What's unclear, what the medical problem involves, or which astronaut needs care back on Earth. Retired astronaut Leroy Chow.
Although we're very well medically screened and examined before flight, some kind of a medical issue can crop up.
What is clear, staying in space posed someone real risk. Astronauts get basic medical training before they launch. At least one medical officer is always aboard the ISS. But this moment proves all that training and onboard medical kit has limits. Commander Mike Fink spoke for all the returning astronauts earlier this week.
I wish it were longer, but we have what we have, and it was a lot of fun.
Great to have the crew back on Earth safely. In a break with splashdown protocol, they headed straight for a San Diego hospital for overnight observation. NASA has strict privacy rules, which is why everything about this medical issue is such a mystery. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
All right, and finally, looking ahead, golf fans, get ready because tickets are now on sale for the 9th Annual Club Car Championship at the Landings Golf and Athletic Club in Savannah. The golf tournament is open from Thursday, March 26th to Sunday, March 29th. Ticket prices for the Corn Ferry Tour event start at $10. Kids 17 and under do get in free with a ticketed adult. The 80s music tribute band, Electric Avenue, will be headlining the 4th annual Saturday night concert after the 3rd round, bringing the 80s MTV experience. So a lot of fun right there that you won't want to miss. For more information on how to get tickets, we do have a web story with that link. It's up online right now at WTOC.com. All right, and with that, we're going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. Appreciate you all spending part of your afternoon with us. We'll be back in 45 minutes for Welcome to Our Community with Dawn Baker. And in the meantime, you can always head on over to our website to catch the latest updates at WTOC.com. Thanks for watching, and here's Local News Live.